No episode yesterday, didn't have the time, too much work, but we are back for episode 20 on the 20th of December, Friday. This is Make Space Boring, the quick summary of who I'm meeting and what I'm learning in the space field. So, had a quick exchange with Art Harman last night. He's a space policy expert and founder and director of the Coalition to Save Man's Space Exploration, and he started that in 2010, so it's not like it was today, and Doug Lavero wasn't in the chair. So that's going to be interesting to have him on. There's a lot of policy issues for us to talk about. I wanted to quickly list who's going to be on the next 4 episodes as well of the Cold Star Project, the full format interview show that's coming out. I've got a lot more recorded than these, but let's just focus on the next 4. So that'll take us into January, probably around the 13th. So Dr. Moriba Jah is everybody's Christmas present. He is at the University of Texas at Austin and focusing on orbital collision prevention. It's a fascinating topic, and I enjoy sharing the heck out of whatever he puts up because it's always interesting, and they're producing these mathematical models of the resident space objects as they're orbiting around. And so he is leading the charge on making sure that as we go from several thousand space objects to hundreds of thousands of space objects, that things just don't turn into a big disaster. And Mike Maloney and I had a talk this week about that. That'll come out in probably in a couple months. That issue is pretty complicated. You might think it's simple. It is not. The identifying and tracking and recording of all this data is quite complex, and it's a real funnel system. It's like, well, we know stuff's there, but we don't know what it is yet, maybe. All the way down to, okay, I know this is the signature of this object, and we've tracked it for a while, and we have a history, and there's the data. So Dr. Moriba Jah, next week, look for that. After that is Jim Cantrell, who is the founder of StratSpace, and some of you will know him as the original SpaceX business development guy. Very interesting conversation with him. I'm going to enjoy listening to that again when I take the raw video from that episode and package it together into the program. We covered a lot. I mean, these guys who've been in the space industry for 20, 30 years, man, they have got a lot to share, right? Michael Lyon, who is an attorney, he's a startup advisor and does a bit of venture capital stuff. He'll be on the week after that. That was a neat conversation. He had gotten connected with Jim Cameron's deep sea expeditions, going down to the Bismarck and getting in one of those diving submarines and going down into these trenches thousands of feet below the surface of the ocean. And I don't know if you know about that. Once you get into that, you cannot get out quickly. If it takes you 6 hours to get down there, it's going to take you 6 hours to get back up, And then following that, it's Laura Montgomery, who is a space attorney, adjunct professor of space law at a college. And again, she's a number 2, I think, of the space lawyers we're going to have on, and I think we've got 3 or 4 booked. Each has their own perspective and interpretation of those outer space treaties and what can be done and should be done. So I enjoy having these folks on. So those are our next 4 guests coming up on the Cold Star Project, and we've got a lot more recorded, and we're booking into March right now. It's the middle of December, and we're booking into March. I want to remind you of a couple of books that came in. This one is The Inbound Organization by Dan Tyre and Todd Hockenberry. I interviewed Todd Hockenberry about inbound marketing, and Dan Tyre's one of the founding members of HubSpot. So these guys know a lot, and that is a very interesting book, and I'm enjoying going through it. Joseph Paris, State of Readiness. This is an operational excellence book about preparing your organization to become one interested in and executing operational excellence. That is a big thing for us at Cold Star. If you're doing something and you're doing it over and over and over again, you ought to be talking to us, because we could be helping you get way better results. If you think of if you go into any town, like have you ever gone through a drive-through at a fast food place and it's awful? and the lineup is there, and there's that clock inside. You can see through the drive-through window, and there's a red flashing clock there, and it's beeping. That means they've gone over their service time on how fast they should turn around taking that order and getting the food out. It's an awful experience, right? And then you go somewhere where, I don't want to name names, but a certain chicken place I've seen do this very well. They have very busy service times at noon, and yet they're churning people through and delivering their orders right, and the food is good. And what they do is they've got a guy out there in the lineup at the drive-through with a tablet, and he is going window to window of those cars and taking the orders and putting them in on the tablet so that they don't have to wait to get up to the window or the speaker to do it. And they are processing those orders through way faster. And as a fast food franchisee, that's how you make money, is you give people the right food quickly and move them through. And so if you can service, if you're stuck at 10 or 12 cars an hour, that's not very good, right? Most of them have like a 2-minute turnaround, somewhere around there. If you could change that to 15 or 20 cars an hour, right, as a for instance, look at how much more money you're making. And obviously, due to the math, there's still room for improvement there, because that's like a 3-minute turnaround, But if you're stuck at 5, that's going to be a big cash flow improvement. And so your costs stay the same. So if you are in that kind of situation where you've got that compliance culture, you've got a time-based critical mission, and you've got a desire to be the best, and that last one, I have to tell you, is not present out there. It's nowhere near as common as you might think. Most people are happy with good enough. Okay? If that's you, you will not be a client of ours. But if you are burning to be the best, and you live in that world of compliance where horrible things happen if you get it wrong, things explode, people die, right? That's where we want to be involved. And that time-based critical mission is really important. I like to think of, I'm a big NASCAR fan, pit services, right? If you can get that thing down from 15 seconds to 12 seconds to 9 seconds, right? And you probably have to throw the whole paradigm out the window of how that dance goes between the tire changers and the fuel guy and all those folks, and you're limited to the number of people who can go out there. There's the compliance issue again, right? There are rules here, so how do we game the system to maximize the results? That's part of operational excellence, and getting to that end result inside compliance and inside the time-based mission and executing well, right, with that desire to be the best. If that's you, we should speak. All right, I've talked long enough. Happy Friday. This is Jason Kanigan from Cold Star Tech. Make space boring.